What if Clover from Undertale Yellow fought Jack Kennedy from Dayshift At Freddy's? I'm Gribblegrape, here to finally answer that exact question in the very first episode of What If on YouTube. Woohoo! Where we'll break down their feats, abilities, and combat prowess to determine who would truly win in a fight. But first, What If goes by a fairly different rule set than most other versus shows you might be familiar with. So take a peek at the rule set on screen, or check out the elusive rule set video first, whenever that actually comes out. But without further ado, let's get into it, starting with Clover. Long ago, two races ruled over Earth, humans and monsters, who despite their many differences, were united by their shared possession of a soul. The culmination of one's being that would adapt to match the bearer's own values and will. However, the power held within the human soul far surpassed that of even the strongest monsters, meaning that once war broke out between the two races, humanity would lead victorious, sealing the monsters underground with a magical spell which could only be broken with the power of 7 human souls. Monsterkind's king, Asgore, was peaceful however, wishing to avoid any further conflict, but in his kind's desperation he declared that any human who fell into the underground would die, ultimately collecting the souls of 5 human children over their years of imprisonment, an ultimate sacrifice to the hopes of their freedom. However, these disappearances would not go unnoticed by one. As the rumors spread about the mountain which held no return, a figure strapped in leather with a steel at their waist would leap into the underworld to walk the steps of the dead, discover the truth, and serve vigilante justice to the ones who had fallen before them. And that child's name was Clover. A rootin' tootin', cactus shootin', gunpowder chewin' cow, influenced by the old western style of yore. And with a hop, skip, and a jump down a very conveniently placed trapdoor, they would embark on their journey throughout the underworld. No goat mamas, funny Freddy killers, or wingdingers here. This is the story of Undertale Yellow. No, not that one. Though their past remains a mystery, whether they had a poor home life, were raised as an orphan, or were free-roaming from the get-go, one thing made clear was the burning sense of justice within Clover's soul. Literally, their soul trait was none other than that of justice itself. And with them being a human, denoted by the hat of course, they would have the power to take on all of the underground by themselves. Right? Well, no, because Clover canonically fucking sucked at Undertale. Like, it died to Snowcap and even the Hotland laser puzzles for Christ's sake. And this is no small part to their lack of determination. The central life force for all and the manifestation of the will to live, which can empower those beyond their reasonable limits, with the single most determined of which being able to completely start and stop reality itself on a whim, by manipulating the game's own mechanics. You know, save files, reloading said files, pausing and closing the game, battle menus, all that. Yep, all fully canon to the world of Undertale, with the top dog of determination being able to save and reload these files on a whim, among other things. And luck would have it, Flowey, the most determined monster in the underground, would allow Clover to harness their power, taking them under his petals to venture through the back roads of the underground with ease, taking on foes like Dal, the forlorn gunner of the Dark Ruins, Bartlett, the feather-brained puzzle crafter of the Royal Guard, Northstar, the enigmatic sheriff of the Wild East, and many more, with the choice of them coming out dead or alive at Clover's holster. You see, there's many routes Clover can take when navigating combat. As Undertale's whole premise insists, the RPG where nobody has to die, Clover can face foes with either violence or pacifism, splitting Clover's journey into multiple directions. But need they choose violence? Because this is a versus show, dammit, they're packing an impressive arsenal to get them through. Clover's tried and true means of offense, their toy gun, is nothing more than a toy pea shooter with safe rubber bullets. But when taking to the environment, and after being gifted a feisty upgrade with the wild revolver, Clover could enhance its firepower by finding new forms of ammunition, like pebbles, icicles, nails, flint, and more, some of which yielding positive effects, such as the coffee bean ammo, which can amp Clover's movement speed, and the glass ammo, which would heal them slightly, both of which taking effect after a successfully landed critical hit. They can also acquire many consumables, like candy corn, tea, coffee, infinite amounts of corn chowder apparently, and Clover's favorite, completely inedible garbage, like packing peanuts, multiple types of random foliage sold by a trusted vendor, literal gunpowder, which somehow restores Clover's health back to full, and hydrofolic acid, which fucking kills them. Bon appetit. But that's not all. Clover can find special one-use golden items hidden all throughout the underground, such as the golden pear, which makes Clover invulnerable for a pair of hits, and the golden coffee, which amps their movement speed. But by collecting 4 of these items and facing off against Anyways, they can obtain the Golden Bandana, the toughest accessory in the game, which makes basically every attack obsolete in damage. Which is saying something considering how Tonka tough they're built. Being able to survive boulders falling on their head, falling down a hole, active gunfire, falling down a hole, getting into a high-speed boat crash, and then subsequently falling down a hole. They tend to do that a lot. And even being able to lift a solid block of titanium on their head with no back problems. Clover is a tough nut to crack, and that was all by design. Clover's alliance with Flowey to reap justice on monsterkind by reclaiming the souls was one-sided from the very beginning, and Clover would soon learn this when taking to new ideas. Yay, core of my comfort character. Again. Clover may be powerful, but they're also naive, a flaw which damned them to fall under Flowey's control the second they stepped foot in the underground. Clover was never the main character of this story, it was Flowey. Flowey was the one who had changed their route, Flowey was the one who had pushed them to become stronger, who had used Clover's own ideals against them in an attempt to achieve godhood, and was the one pulling the strings of Clover's life the whole time. Endlessly resetting their journey each and every time they failed or faltered, with each imperfect restart subconsciously leaving behind memories of their past attempts. Giving Clover experience, will, strength that they could have never had the first time around, and conditioning Clover's sense of direction to achieve one thing and one thing only, the mission, in hopes that one inevitable reset would be the breakthrough for Flowey's success, which, in one fateful timeline, would come at the violent twist of Clover's own sense of justice. By slaughtering every last monster they've met, to a vile, unthinking, soulless degree which even Flowey found off-putting, which is no small task, mind you. Even the most basic of monsters are able to erect massive towers out of the ground, and live comfortably in areas hot enough to evaporate water and styrofoam instantly. With Clover's tougher foes sending lightning strikes, geysers of lava, trains, and even small meteors their way, which Clover can take on no problem. Fitting due to the fact that just one average human soul would be equivalent to the entire Underground's population of monsters, if not stronger. Firmly putting Clover at any stage in their development above all of this. Which kinda speaks for itself when their soul doubles as an energy gun which can fire fucking laser beams, look at that. With this in mind, Clover would reach the apex of their strength when discovering the truth about the children's fates, and then mindlessly gunning down the last face of hope they'd known. The only remaining person who tried to find the good in Clover's heart, they would reach the maximum level of violence, and with it, the highest rank of determination the Underground had ever seen, even more than Flowey's own. Clover would attain full control over the world, be able to start and stop reality on their own, unshackled from Flowey's control, and with it, let their form of justice be served, by blasting Flowey into a pile of leaves, annihilating even King Asgore with just a single attack, and returning to the surface with the children's souls in tow, leaving the Underground empty behind their footsteps. This is the full power of the human soul. The power that one Chujin Katsukane would attempt to take advantage of. In fearing this timeline of genocide and mindless slaughter repeating throughout history, he would discover a breakthrough for a chance of hope for their race, the Boss Monster Serum. A project destined to let any monster, big or small, attain more power than they could have ever imagined, and fight back against humanity by converting their soul into that of a boss monster's. However, after rigorous research and experimentation on his own body, Chujin would succumb to its effects and pass away, leaving his wife, Saroba Katsukane, with the weight of his endeavors and the goal of obtaining a human soul, Clover's soul, to let his legacy live on and the injustices of humanity finally come to an end. But in one fateful timeline where this plan would finally come to fruition, against all odds, Clover would become a pacifist, taking their journey throughout the Underground without a single heart broken or a single life lost. With every boat ride, every dance battle, every mission and friendship formed from a race that was once seen as just another target, Clover would have a full change of heart by befriending every foe that stood in their path. And by having the full weight of the imprisoning war thrust upon them, they would come to realize who truly called for justice the entire time. Even after Saroba fought tooth and nail for their life, Clover would still find the good in her heart, in everyone's heart, and give up their soul to let their friends live on in peace. They tried to convince them otherwise, but Clover was determined. They knew what was right. So after a final goodbye beneath the warm glow of the barrier's light and the fall of cherry leaves upon their body, Clover would pass on for the final time, both their life and their soul to Asgore's collection, so that maybe, one fateful day, their soul can accept the call to action and join forces with the next, and final soul, with all of the souls that had fallen before them, to defeat Flowey, shatter the barrier, and finally let their friends feel the light of day, once again leaving the underground empty behind their footsteps. Though for the time being, this isn't where Clover's story ends, as what started and 7 years of production later ended as a pure passion project and love letter to Toby Fox's original work would slowly become synonymous with the main name itself and inspire an entirely new generation of fan games, animations, comics, featured on GDQ, had live concerts of its music, raised damn near $14,000 to charity, and even became my personal favorite video game of all time, leaving me the most valuable experience I've ever had with a piece of media. Suffice to say, as Clover's friends gathered around to give them one final send-off, to truly give them a place to rest, Clover had let the world know one thing: that justice can come in many forms. Hello. Welcome, employee, to your new day job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, the home of fun and magic for kids and adults alike. Take some time to familiarize yourself with the ins and outs of the establishment, the diner, the arcade, the stage, and more. Where you'll be suiting up in our fabled mascot suits to entertain the crowd, serve our specialty pizzas, which have not been salvaged from the trash can, be ignoring the tick and doggo infestation, leaving the fox exactly where it has been placed, and migrating over to our special off-camera safe room to bleed out whenever the need strikes you. The family-friendly experience is our top priority after all. And with your signature on the employment contract, your soul is now condemned to walk these halls for the rest of eternity. Have fun, and remember, sweep it under the rug. It's probably fine. Such was the case of our fabled tangerine protagonist, Jack Kennedy, your average middle-aged worker in the search of the standard 9-to-5, but would find anything but in the negligible company of Freddy Fazbear's Family Diner. You know, the brand infamous for mass child disappearances, shady business practices, and paranormal activity more than certain to give a night shift guard more than a quirky time, as we already know. But the day shift, on the other hand, takes on a whole new dimension of hellish goofiness under the writing direction of parody. Likely a concerning amount of alcohol. You really can't step 2 feet or get any work done for that matter without some bullshit happening. Like an empire of doggos residing in a bathroom stall, armed invasions from competing brands, eldritch terrors, foxes on stripper poles, toddlers whose spite can allegedly survive past the fall of man, you know, the works. Don't ask. So if you want to keep yourself equipped for the job, look no further than the prize corner. Operated by nobody's favorite friendly neighborhood creep hiding all of the illegal and slightly questionable paraphernalia one could ever ask for. You got wrenches, tasers, cigarettes, and firecrackers capable of demolishing bathroom urinals, crowbars to redeem wastes of the Faz budget, and you know, the somewhat normal items. Pizza can fully restore one's health, soda can amp all of your stats by 25% for a few turns before making you enter a sugar crash shortly thereafter, and licorice will instantly kill you for the mere presence of it being laid upon your tongue. Hey, wasn't this place supposed to be like a restaurant? Don't you think the health inspectors and, you know, the police for that matter would be a little mad about there being burnt robot faces on the pizzas? Well, when your employees are capable of bitch-slapping the health inspector so hard he explodes, that's basically a non-issue. Jack's go-to in a fight is simply directly smacking his opponents, and why wouldn't it be if the sheer force of his fists can generate literal explosions on impact and destroy hulking robots in a single hit? The same very ones that fall victim to pick up the facts, Grand Canyon, Furthermore, Jack can heal himself as many times as he needs, as well as party members with Give Life. Jack can also buff all of his stats for 10 turns with I Promise, granted only once per fight. Doggo Rain. Oh, all of this would only aid to reaffirm the fact that Jack was trapped, bound to repeat the cycle of Fazhal and trapped within Phony's palm forever. Though no matter how comfortable you make yourself, you can't call a place home without family. Cue Dave Miller. Kebab-eating, sport-obsessed, child-murdering, definitely not William Afton wearing a fake mustache and glasses, weirdo eagerly awaiting his old sports arrival at the darkest corners of Fazbear's. Another soul bound to the walls by contract and seeking a way to tear the establishment apart from the inside out, with Jack as the key to their success, with this being the very moment that Jack's moral compass would be put to the test. Though with Vegas and Fox strippers on the line, the objectively correct decision wasn't too hard to discern. Kickstarting the fan favorite and worst partner-in-crime duo ever conceived, with the act of foiling a sting operation by blowing up an animatronic to burn the building to ashes being just the beginning of their aubergine antics, and with Jack being put through the absolute ringer as a result. No, not that one. Jack's average mascot suit, the key component to a majority of Dave's three-step kitty strangling schemes, are built tough enough to make a toddler's head explode across the ceiling after just one kick from its metallic framing. Albeit these suits are very prone to experience spring lock malfunctions from reckless movement, which penetrate your entire body with metal spikes until you slowly, painfully bleed to death. But Jack is no stranger to surviving even those, and that's just the beginning of Jack's oddly superhuman endurance. He's been attacked by a flock of pelicans, survived dog euthanasia, once at least, and can operate near an animatronic who's stated to be as radioactive as Chernobyl, with zero negative effects to his bodily health. He strangled more children in his time than what could possibly count, shot up an opposing restaurant while under the influence of three-dimensional transitory cocaine sourced from an ethereal horde of toddlers formed of unrelenting ungratefulness in the ball pit of endless expanse and Scrabble. Again, don't ask, you probably don't want to know. And was so unbelievably fucking evil that even the text box narrator of the game itself got sick of his shit and left. He did physically destroy the entirety of Reddit though, so there are some redeeming characteristics at play here. Though after all of this time of ripping Freddy's a new ass time and time again, solely to achieve the goal of freedom, what drives Jack to keep coming back, acquiring brand new day jobs at completely different Freddy's locations each time he's finished off the last? What the fuck's with this dog that keeps floating around the screen? What the fuck is his deal? Well, there's a little bit more to Sporty than he tends to let on. Long before the trigger-happy, neon orange jack-o'-lantern we know now, Jack Kennedy, a member of a caring family, had lost his younger sister, as by chance she unfortunately fell victim to a murder at Freddy's Diner. Gee, wonder who. And for a need to find a remedy for his grief and the guilt of being the inadvertent cause of his sister's death, Jack picked up a night shift gig at that very same location. And I'm sure you can probably guess how the rest turned out. Trapped inside a spring lock suit with punctured lungs and no help in sight, Jack was on the verge of death. But due to his burning tenacity to correct the wrongdoings of Fazbear's, the godly being, the real Fredbear, took notice to his cause. Seeing his potential, he came to Jack with a proposition, that if he were to put an end to the madness for good, he would let Jack live on once more. So with the promise made to save every lost soul of Fazbear's, Jack arose. Without a soul, without any more than a disheveled walking corpse to call his own, but with a drive to serve justice. And did he go through with this? Hell no. If you can straight up kill the god of childhood whimsy with your words alone, why would you? When coming face to face with the real Fredbear, Jack would take advantage of a profound type of ability coined as honesty. By simply giving your foes an honest, heart-to-heart, low-tier god speech, users of this ability can make their foes completely lose the will to live and fall dead on the spot just through words alone. And many trips to Vegas, full entrepreneurship, casual spring locking, and eventual realization that Dave may have been one of the 2 Freddy murderers in existence who could have possibly killed his sister, who would have guessed right, and deservedly putting an end to him as well, there would now be nothing left in Jack's way to do what exactly? After all this time of ripping the world apart underneath himself, it's all gradually started to make Jack and Dave alike feel nothing anymore. Hollow, just like an empty vessel. So befittingly, upon Dave's death, a supernatural force would come forth to fill the void in Jack's heart. This individual being Henry Miller. In life, Henry was a ringmaster who had taken Dave in under his wing and guided him into the ways of being a cold-hearted serial killer just like himself, kickstarting the violence which Dave would pass on down to Jack. This was, however, until Henry met his mortal end after a murder gone wrong, henceforth leaving his soul condemned to the Flipside, a distorted, alternate version of reality born beyond time to house the lost spirits claimed by Freddy Fazbear's. with Henry being sent down to the literal void of its depths as its prisoner. But with an ever-growing power burning within him, Henry would jump at the opportunity to connect with Jack from the dead, and return to reality, puppeting Jack's body as a host. And if you thought Jack was a scary motherfucker before, you still got a thing or two coming. After his time stranded in the void, Henry would gain many abilities, such as being able to warp and distort reality, with him being described by the game's own creator to be capable of completely fucking up the entire world if their powers were used to its fullest potential. And on top of this, Henry is essentially the master of honesty attacks. He bears amalgamations of pure spite which can shield himself while firing projectiles that leech off of his opponent's health, and he can even close the game itself on his own. But as absolute as Henry's newfound control may seem, a fragment of Jack's good side, the honest, caring, everyday guy who promised to put an end to this exact outcome, never left. As time and time again, Jack would be stalked and confronted by a mysterious shadow doggo by the name of Blackjack. Oh, so that's what the random dog in the corner was this whole time. Jack's long-lost soul. Naturally. Being a fragment of Jack's own self, Blackjack would more or less act as Jack's distant guardian, who through confrontations with the player themselves would attempt to steer Jack back on his right moral path, to ensure that Jack reaches the timeline where their promise is fulfilled, using their meta abilities to reset the game's timeline to do so. And their moveset doesn't end there. They can travel dimensions, manipulate technology, use telekinesis, and even be able to hold their own in a fight with abilities such as Darkness Kebab, which can blind foes in a veil of darkness, and the ability to banish their foes to the Flipside, or rather the Void, which ironically is how Henry Miller ended up trapped there in the first place. But in the idealistic timeline that Blackjack is trying to make a reality, Henry would have never gotten the chance to leave. Jack would now go along with Fredbear's promise, saving the lives of the innocent from Dave and putting the lost to rest, running the gauntlet through every Freddy's location, including his very own, until he'd be given the chance to enter the Flipside, to reunite with his brother, who has a phone for a head and is also Jack's boss, and his sister, who is now the puppet. Recurring theme here, don't ask, we don't have time. Face off against Henry at the deepest depths of the void, to finally put an end to the last remnant of Fazbear's tragedy. Though the battle would not be won easily. One by one, Jack's friends would fall to Henry's honest words, losing the will to fight. But Jack, he stood strong, undeterred by anything that could stop him from accomplishing his goal. Jack was too determined to let it end. He would revive all of his fallen allies, and with their combined power, defeat Henry for good. And he would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling dead kids and your dead dog too. But that's just it. Everyone here is dead. And with their goals finally accomplished, it would come time for their souls to rest and move on to the afterlife. However, Jack, due to Blackjack's separation from himself, doesn't have his own soul anymore, meaning he can't move on to the afterlife with his family. He was never meant to. But Jack had already accepted this fate a long time ago. With his promise fulfilled, Jack would hand down Blackjack's ownership to Dave and return to reality to go down in the flames of his work, of his whole afterlife's purpose, to forget the past and be left behind with it. But this wouldn't be in vain to the ones in need of saving, as Jack's final message to the world would be the request in his will, to build a memorial and a final resting place for all of the souls who had been tragically lost to the hands of Fazbear's, finally putting every last one of the company's mistakes to rest, with Jack living on only as a memory of time meant to be forgotten. Good going, employee, you're making me tear up again. But hey, what's done is done. Tomorrow is a new day. A happier day. Alright, the combatants have been covered, fights have been won, and tears have been shed. But really quickly, before we get into the fight, if you like what you see here, consider joining the Discord. It's got over 300 members and growing, and it's where all of the old What If scripts can be found. If you wanted to see what Henry Stickmin vs. The Second Coming, Lord X vs. Red, Sackboy vs. Maxwell, Springtrap vs. Chucky, and all of those would look like, well, they're all archived here, alongside a ton of exclusive sneak peeks, updates, and even matchup pitches to convince me on why your idea should become a full episode, and even community matchup votes to decide on those next episodes. Links in the description. With all that out of the way, let's see which one of today's time-looping soul hunters will come out on top, and which one will die for the final time.
What the fuck? Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Give it to him, old sport.
Dave, I kicked you out 20 minutes ago. Why the hell are you here?
Listen, old sport. You're getting your ass handed to you by a fucking toddler. That rootin' tootin' mistake was going to get you killed if I didn't intervene. So I mean this. For you, for us, old sport. Take my hand.
Oh, fuck it.
That's the spirit, old sport. Now quick, get in. I hold zero responsibility. Hello there, old sport. I have a business proposition. You, let's say 5 kids back here and killed them wearing their costumes all at once. Don't worry about the last body, old boy. Fine, facts. No more Freddy, no Vegas. Baby, no, we killed the fuck ton of children together at one. I think you just killed the fucking concepts in childhood. Shame, I don't want to know you anymore. Jack, please, don't do this.
It's time for you to pay a blood price.
I love you.
Return to me.
I'll only tell you this once.
Get the fuck out of my restaurant. your entire life to denying fate, the fate of children whose only purpose was to die. Yet you broke the world, more than monster kind ever could. You killed them, all of them, every face you were incapable of learning to love, only to call yourself the hero, after leaving room for only yourself in the world. But who could love you? You've built your entire sense of self around a concept you spit in the face of by virtue of your very existence. You pathetic fucking hippo. Impossible. I'm the protagonist.
I can see it now. Your true intentions. I'm sorry for everything I've done. It doesn't matter anymore. We're dead. Unless... You, I've come to realize, are one of the bravest, kindest, most noble souls I've ever met. So since the promise in my heart will die with me, I hold faith that I can live on in you. Thank you. I know it's bold to ask from someone who just... You have no idea how much this means to me. May you find peace with the world you make.
Read the room, dude. This was a deceptively close matchup, and definitely one of the most complicated ones I've ever covered, with a large factor in that being that both characters become almost entirely different people across their many equally different routes, from the moral compasses which they represent throughout them. So for the sake of covering all aspects of the debate, we'll be splitting this into a round robin of 5 different matchups between the characters' most prevalent morality states, beginning with neutral Clover versus neutral Jack. First thing to mention now, what if the rule set really did nip a lot of Jack's higher tier arguments in the bud here? Whether it be a consistent lack of in-universe substantiation, hinging on forms of scaling which aren't allowed by the rules, or being wildly inconsistent to the rest of Jack's decently grounded portrayal, I think it's safe to say that he is not moving faster than time itself, granting Clover a very safe edge in the stat trinity. Jack obviously isn't defenseless, as he does have some pretty decent feats, like him kicking toddlers through ceilings, Balloon Boy across rooms, and notably generating explosions with the force of his fists, which, considering the likelihood of it being pulverization, could generate 0.02 tons of TNT worth of energy. And many of Jack's items grant him the ability to slowly increase these attack stats over time, but Clover can perfectly match these types of outputs without it even being notable to mention on their overall feats list, with them being able to do essentially the exact same thing. And skipping ahead to their genocide version, just to get it out of the way, they're able to blow holes straight through stone walls and even vaporize meteors, which can both get to around 40 tons of TNT at a high end, with Genocide Clover also taking these meteors likewise, granting them about the same level of durability. Even neutral Clover consistently lands at about 1 ton of TNT, Hell, any version of Clover would be able to scale above all of monster kind by virtue of them being human, which could reasonably let any version of Clover blow Jack's stats out of the water. Where on the other hand, Jack tends to get killed a lot from robots, fires, basic fistfights, and hell, even one shot from a regular pistol. I don't think I need to elaborate on why that's bad news here, with Jack's best durability feat we could find being him surviving a spring locking, boasting a mind-blowing 935 kilojoules, after damn near crippling him. Alright then, add this on top of Clover being the more agile fighter, with the exception of reaction time, as Jack did drive halfway across the United States in 4 hours, how fast? And their experience being generally more combat-centric, without even mentioning their deja vu experience from previous runs, and Jack would be left with very little to work with. He is smarter most of the time, sure, and he definitely has a larger quantity and quality of tools in his arsenal, including some backup of his own, an actually real gun, and means to infinitely sustain himself through natural healing, but it would still mean very little against Clover's far greater firepower, and the fact that they themselves can naturally heal as well through embracing strong emotions in some of their boss fights. Clover takes the win pretty unceremoniously, but when we move on to their pacifist forms, things get shaken up quite a lot. Since, as we already know, Clover refuses to kill, let alone harm any of their opponents under the guise of pacifism. But Jack, on the other hand, while definitely not bloodlusted by any means, is not beholden to the same limitations, and will be more than happy to whoop ass whenever the moment arises. Easy GG's for Jack, right? Well, under Rule 2 of What If, let's think about this for a second. Clover is a complete and total pacifist who will refuse to lay a finger on even the coldest of foes they've met, valuing peace and redemption above all else. And Jack, by the promise to Fredbearer and by what the entirety of their undeath has been dedicated to, is to be a savior for lost children, with both even giving up their own lives to ensure that their goals are met. So realistically speaking, how would they fight? Jack has devoted his entire life to protecting children exactly like Clover, meaning he obviously wouldn't start the fight, and it's damn near impossible for Clover to be an instigator either. Both can read each other's minds to an extent, ensuring that there would never be any type of misunderstanding in the first place, and push come to shove, both would probably be more likely to kill themselves rather than their opponents, in the interest of keeping them safe. So how would this matchup even work as a fight? Well, it wouldn't. If we do go ahead and take this as a pure one-on-one fisticuffs brawl where one has to come out on top, Jack has means to reset the fight, send Clover away to a separate dimension, and, actually attack them in the first place, without their benefit of the doubt argument leaving them with their lowest possible stats. So Jack would win, but realistically and truthfully speaking, there is no motivation you could possibly give the other that would supersede their want to keep the other safe. Meaning that no matter what, this category has to end in a draw, though just for the sake of fairness, let's throw Jack a bone. Next up, Pacifist Clover versus Evil. Yeah, let's just rip off the band-aid really quick. Clover isn't doing shit here. Do remember this is the specific version of Clover who completely denies the prospect of harming their foes in a versus debate against an absolutely unsparable monster who can break all of reality and is essentially a 2-for-1 combo meal of child murdering experience. Give me one thing Clover has going for them here. They can read Jack's mind, which would leave them open to what exactly? Okay, Clover can technically kill foes they deem unjust, which only ever happened one time, basically took them out of pacifism anyways, and they'd be jumping ship to try and fight Jack at level 1. Okay. Jack takes this round. No way. Now, Genocide Clover versus Good Jack. No more lovey-dovey pacifist bullshit here. Clover's delivering cold-hearted Undertale love now. We're both having the newfound ability to control aspects of and reset the timeline, with Clover gaining full determination and henceforth its save and load abilities, and Blackjack joining the fight with his overarching game mechanic-based manipulation. Both fighters could just keep resetting the other until they inevitably win. So this debate ultimately came down to whose control was superior, or moreover, who actually uses it to its fullest potential. Blackjack's inherent ability to reset the game back to square one at the player's request is a massively powerful win condition, If it's actually taken advantage of, that is. Outside of the context of gameplay-specific menu selects, which almost exclusively take place away from the main story, Blackjack really never puts this ability to use in combat. Hell, even against the literal main antagonist of the series, who is actively killing off Jack's friends right next to him, Blackjack never retaliates in any of the Dormammu have come to bargain ways which you'd come to expect. So if he's shown incapable of capitalizing on this against Henry, why would we assume that he would against some random-ass kid? On the other hand though, determination holders such as Flowey, Frisk, and Clover themselves are very much aware of their superiority and abuse the fuck out of it the instant they're able to. Just look at how Clover took down Flowey, for instance. Not to mention Clover's control being far more precise, with them being able to create specific save points to jump around to, where Blackjack can only restart the entire game over from ground zero. Blackjack could definitely send Clover away to the void and win for battlefield removal, if Clover couldn't just immediately reset back to before that happened to undo the damages without a problem. Clover takes this round. Well then, the scores are tied, so everything comes down to the final and undeniably closest matchup of all, Genocide Clover versus Jack Trap. Jack Trap, or more specifically Henry Miller, had some seriously fucking insane merits here, like their reality warping, honesty, game manipulation, and more. But believe it or not, Clover had everything they needed to get through all of this. First off, Clover is no stranger to immense reality warping, thanks to their old pal Flowey, with Clover ending up perfectly fine after they reset the game, distort in warp space, or even shatter it like glass entirely, which even Clover's neutral version can take on just fine. So Henry's own, which I will add we have yet to even see a solid point of reference for yet, might not be that much of a hassle for them. Henry did have another massive win condition though, for making Clover lose the will to fight with honesty, but even that has its caveats here. While this attack is known to instantly defeat its foes, Jack himself was never actually affected by this, whether that be through his lack of a soul and therefore feelings, or the other allies this was used on being more faint of heart. We can't say for certain, but one thing we do know is that the previous times Genocide Clover had their ideals challenged, notably against Axis, it caused Clover to gain power out of sheer anger rather than lose it. But this is certainly more of an interpretation of how these powers would interact rather than a proven truth, but the way we see it, with or without honesty being applicable, Clover still has enough of their own merits to take this fight more times than not. Do remember that Clover still takes the physical side advantage by a long shot, with Jack Trap, despite all of the world-bending power they've gained, still undeniably being a glass cannon. Hell, even in Henry's own fight, look at what happens the second his defenses are taken out. One good soul beam from Clover and it's game over for Sportsy. Which is all backed up by Geno Clover's most consistent win condition, being their determination and save and load abilities, letting them undo any damage done with the snap of a finger. And hell, with enough determination, potentially letting them refute death entirely. Sure, either Jack or Henry have presumably blocked off menu options before, and considering how Undertale's UI is more than tangible in its own way, you could make the argument for that countering the save and load buttons, but we're barely given any context as to who or what is disabling these options, if it's a usable ability, if it could be done to Clover, if it even has anything to do with Jack Trap in the first place, you know, all that. And Jack Trap likely wouldn't be expecting this level of game manipulation from Clover in the first place, so they would likely be able to pull off the same trick a good few times before it gets cut off, which would more than certainly give them enough time to land one hit. This was an exceptionally close category, but at the end of the day, we're still being very generous to Jack here by letting their evil form with zero shown feats or abilities take everything that Henry can do, including alternate reality hypotheticals that have almost no proof towards canonicity, besides Dayshift's creator noting that it's a possible timeline. Not to mention the throwaway point from earlier, so even while giving Jack a strong benefit of the doubt, Clover still takes the fifth and final category. And if you need any more damning evidence, humans, canonically, are fireproof. Rip Bozo. Jack's wider arsenal, unpredictability, and kitty-strangling confidence put up one hell of a fight, undoubtedly one of the closest we've ever seen, but Clover's overwhelming firepower, sharpshooting skill, and undying determination made sure that when done is done, Jack would be given his just desserts. The winner is Clover.